remained unchanged, and the madwoman Song Shirua continued her brutal antics daily along with Song Yenran, who kept dragging him down and complaining. In the barbaric lands, Lin Xian could only sigh. Indeed, it seems there are few normal people with the surname Song. Fortunately, he had a clever maidservant with chores she helped, and in leisure he teased, and from time to time he would discipline the tyrannical empress within her, which was quite amusing. Soon more than 10 days passed briskly, and Lin Xian could clearly feel that the atmosphere in the Lin family was becoming somewhat unusual. As the eve of the trial battle approached, not bad Yenran, your vitality has reached 95, and while your sword intent has not yet stepped into the sword heart, it has become more refined. This trial battle should yield a decent ranking. Li Dao looked at Song Yenran with satisfaction, then turned his gaze to Lin and said seriously, Lin, your strength has already surpassed the current level of the trial battles. Unless something unexpected happens, you are likely to be ranked first this time. However, do not become arrogant. Remember, there is always someone better out there, and there are skies beyond our sky. Stay grounded and work hard to enhance your strength further. Lin responded firmly, yes, I will not let my master down. Watching Lin Xian's composed demeanor, Song Yenran couldn't help but give a bitter smile inside her heart. Over the past 10 days, Song Yenran had truly witnessed the terrifying strength of Lin Xian. By now, ordinary second-tier beasts were nothing more than mere cannon fodder in his presence. After the appearance of the 9 blue lotuses around him, he could even contend with some of the lower third-tier beasts. Lin Xian's vitality had reached a horrifying 99 points. Increasing even a single point above 90 was much more challenging than before, and some people might never reach 100 points in their lifetime, thus losing the path of a martial artist. The reason Lin Xian hadn't made a breakthrough yet was that his master had advised him to suppress his power until he could find the sacred spring in the trial ground for the third blood washing. Song Yenran suddenly felt a deep sense of powerlessness, struggling with the decision of whether or not to give up considering him as her rival. But then she remembered how he had once humiliated her. Just as she was about to leave this barbaric land, Lin Xian had returned to the Lin family home only to find a mysterious figure lurking near his doorstep, acting suspiciously. The figure was startled upon seeing Lin Xian suddenly appear and tried to leave, but upon recognizing Lin Xian's face, he stopped in his tracks. Lin Xian, I have been looking for you for a long time. Lin Xian immediately recognized the sinister-looking man. Isn't this the second young master of the Fong family? What are you doing skulking around my family's doorstep in the dead of night? Could it be that you have some nefarious plot? Lin Xian looked at him with a playful expression, and Fong Ping's face suddenly showed a hint of panic, but he quickly regained his sinister demeanor. Lin Xian, I heard that Sword Saint did not keep those treasures and they all ended up in your hands. Fong Ping suddenly extended his hand in a threatening manner. I advise you to be sensible and return my sword intent pills to me. Lin Xian scoffed, are you talking about these? Before Fong Ping could react, Lin Xian pulled out a handful of pills and, to Fong Ping's astonishment, popped them into his mouth. Chewing them, he said, the ones you gave aren't even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Enraged, Fong Ping had never touched a single one of those sword intent pills, and now Lin Xian was squandering them right before his eyes. You waste. You're not worthy of touching my sword intent pills. Disturbing aura began to emanate from Fong Ping as a dense demonic energy burst forth. You waste. Hand over the sword intent pills now. Don't think just because you're a disciple of Sword Saint that I wouldn't dare to touch you. In this capital, there is no one Fong Ping is afraid of. Oh? Why do I remember someone not daring to even squeak in front of the elder young master of the Shao family? Caught off guard, Fong Ping became furiously embarrassed, and in a flash he lunged towards Lin Xian with a claw engulfed in demonic energy. Die! As the claw charged with demonic energy was about to strike, Lin Xian just smiled lightly, and in the next instant Fong Ping's body suddenly couldn't move. What is this? Fong Ping was shocked, feeling as if countless blades had locked onto him, seeming as though any slight movement would cause him to burst and die instantly. His forehead was subtly covered with a cold sweat, large beads of sweat beginning to drip, yet the demonic aura around him did not diminish in the slightest. Is this all the strength you have? And you dare to come to kill me? Lin Xian suddenly thrust the sword energy into his body. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Countless sword energies pierced into his body, feeling as if he was being stabbed by numerous needles. Fong Ping screamed in agony, only then realizing the horror of Lin Xian. Regretting in his heart, he stuttered, young master Lin, I was blind to your greatness. However, Lin Xian had no intention of letting him go just like that and immediately asked, speak. What sinister plot brings you to the Lin family in the dead of night? As he spoke, he injected more sword energy into Fong Ping. Fong Ping struggled painfully but still clenched his teeth, refusing to speak. Seeing this, Lin Xian's mind shifted, and suddenly Fong Ping felt as though millions of swords were piercing his body, the immense pain making him cry out. Just as Lin Xian was about to continue his torment, a sudden attack from afar targeted him. He leaped back, and upon looking towards Fong Ping again, he noticed a figure clad in black swiftly rescuing him. Watching the figure gradually disappearing into the dark night, Lin Xian did not pursue, for he had sensed a strong and familiar aura from the man in black. He was certain he had seen this person at the Lin household before. Lin Xian vaguely felt that there was more to this incident, especially considering the recent unusual calm within his clan. He suspected that the great elder might soon make a move. Meanwhile, in a hidden corner, the severely injured Fong Ping suddenly said to the man in black, "I want that guy dead. Don't worry, he won't live much longer. When the time comes, I will let young Master Fong personally kill him." Receiving the promise from the man in black, Fong Ping let out a sinister laugh, though this laugh seemed to strain all the muscles in his body, worsening his injuries. An hour before the trial battle. Classmates, a month has passed, and now all of you are qualified to participate in the trial battle. As your teacher, I wish you all good results. Although Song Shirua had an expressionless face, she kept her eyes fixed on Lin Xin the whole time. There seemed to be a mix of reluctance and dependency in her eyes. Lin Xian was startled and immediately dismissed this absurd thought. Honestly, with his current lack of strength, he did not want to see this crazy woman again. Over these 30 days, who knows what he had endured? This crazy woman's tricks were endless, even to the point that on the last day, it seemed as though she wanted to revive Lin Xian only to kill him again and then revive him once more, repeating the process until the madwoman's amusement was satisfied. Lin Xian finally saw the fainting look in her eyes, and only then did he find his release. 100 times, this madwoman had killed him 100 times. A strange glimmer flashed in Lin Xian's eyes as he stared at the voluptuous figure of the lunatic on the stage, swearing to himself that he would make her pay dearly. Soon the crowd arrived at a square where about 1,000 students were waiting eagerly for the trial battle to begin. Just as everyone was filled with anticipation, 8 martial artists in formal attire flew down from the sky. The leader hovered in the middle of the square, standing out uniquely like a magnificent lotus in full bloom. Look, wasn't that Director Liu from Kyoto University of Supernatural Abilities? She had even come in person? Rumors had it that Director Liu's strength had reached the terrifying 9th rank 3 years ago, and now it was even more unfathomable. If one could become a direct disciple of Director Liu, even dying would be worth it. After the crowd's murmurs, a serene voice echoed across the square. Fellow students, this year's trial battle remains the same as before. You will be transported to a small space resembling a wilderness where endless beastly creatures and numerous treasures await. You are to defeat these creatures to earn points. The stronger the beast, the more points you'll gain. Also, this trial battle will continue to use a points system. The more points you have, the higher your rank. Don't worry about your safety. Upon entering the battlefield, you will receive a special token. Not only does it store your points, but it can also teleport you out of the trial space in times of danger, albeit at the cost of forfeiting all your scores from this exam. Furthermore, points can be transferred via the token. Everyone's hearts suddenly became cautious, glancing at each other, with Lin Xian's eyes narrowing interestingly at the prospects of this challenge. As the crowd speculated, Director Liu and others performed a secret technique, and a mysterious black hole suddenly appeared in the center of the square. Everyone proceed into the trial land. Wanard, meet up with me once you're inside, Lin Xian instructed. As he found his body being sucked into the hole, Su Qingwan obediently hummed in response, though inwardly she thought, who wants to meet up with you, you jerk? I've got my own fortunes to find. She knew the trial land was no simple place, especially with the treasures hidden within it. Almost in a blink of an eye, Lin Xian found himself in a strange environment. Is this the trial land? Suddenly, a dark green bronze ancient jade with a number 0 appeared in his hand, signaling the start of his journey. He looked around yet saw no one else. Without a map or any guiding tool, he was clueless about his whereabouts. Despite the main objective of the trial being to hunt demonic beasts for points, the sight of low-level beasts around him, each worth a mere 10 points, failed to arouse any interest in him. Wanner must be quite familiar with this place. Suddenly Lin Xian said, I trust that with Wanner's relentless efforts she will find me soon. Having said that, he began to wander aimlessly around the area. Half an hour later, in the outside world, nearly every family from the capital had gathered, their eyes fixed on the large screen displaying the live rankings. Suddenly, someone exclaimed in surprise, Fong Yuan from the Fong family has been dominating the top spot for a full half hour now. His score has reached a terrifying 2,000 points. How many beasts has he slain? the second place was held by Xiao Malia from the Xiao family and the third place by Song Yanran from the Song family. Master Fong, your son is truly a dragon among men, someone said, their face alight with eager flattery. More and more words of praise followed, swelling Fong Xiaoqian's pride. Suddenly someone shouted, look, why does Lin Xian from the Lin family have 0 points? Could it be that he hasn't slain a single beast? It was believed that after Lin Xian became the disciple of a sword saint he had completely shed his useless status, but as the saying goes, once a useless person always a useless person. Laughter erupted from the Fong family's side, directed mockingly at Lin Zhang, who was also present. Lin Zhang's expression turned grim, ignoring the taunts from old devil Fong, but he looked worried. Could something have happened to Xianer in the secret realm? He wondered. Meanwhile, after aimlessly wandering for half an hour, Lin Xian was starting to feel tired. During this time, aside from encountering some humans fighting with demonic beasts, he had not come across any useful information. Just as he was about to continue his aimless wandering, he suddenly heard a familiar voice ahead. A smile playing at the corners of his mouth, Lin Xian saw a familiar figure in the distance, apparently engaged in battle. Unexpectedly, it was Lin Xian's maid, Fong. Ping's face was sullen, his injuries from the previous night seemingly healed, and his eyes filled with lascivious intent as he gazed at Su Qingwan. Lin Xian, I didn't expect your maid to be so attractive. She'll serve nicely to vent my frustrations. Beautiful lady, blame your master Lin Xian for this. Fong Ping, like a ravenous wolf, was enveloped in demonic energy as he lunged towards Su Qingwan. Su Qingwan's eyes turned cold, and instantly Fong Ping felt a chill spread through the air, even stiffening his movements. I can't handle a mermaid even though I can handle Lin. Fong Ping roared disdainfully, his demonic aura seeming to pierce the heavens, but in the next moment a stern voice called out, leave. The air seemed to freeze, and even the demonic mist around him seemed to don a layer of ice. Almost instantly his entire body turned into an ice block, firmly trapped. Shocked, he thought, how is it possible that I can't defeat a mere servant of Lin Xian? As he stood there stunned, a tearing sensation suddenly spread through his body, and from the corner of his eye he saw the ice block beginning to crack. Fong Ping was terrified, realizing that this woman wanted to kill him. Without hesitation, filled with deep resentment and hatred, he shattered the token with a thought, and his figure vanished from the spot. Look, someone's coming out. Suddenly a figure appeared with a beam of light, teleporting onto the square. Fong Xiaotian saw this and laughed wildly, looking at Lin Zhang. The first one eliminated must be the infamous Lin Xian with 0 points, right, Master Lin? Lin Zhang stared intently at the figure. As it became clearer, there was still a layer of ice on the body. When they recognized the face, everyone was shocked. Isn't that the second young master of the Fong family? Lin Zhang, realizing it wasn't Lin Xian, breathed a sigh of relief, yet felt strangely perturbed, his son being a great emperor in the making. How could he be eliminated so easily? Then with a playful look he turned to Fong Xiaotian, who was eager to retrieve Fong Ping. Old devil Fong, what happened? Why is your son the first to be eliminated? Meanwhile, after dealing with a pest, Su Qingwan rushed towards a place she remembered as a treasure site, but suddenly a familiar voice caught her attention. Too bad I didn't kill that guy. Su Qingwan's body tensed, ready to flee, but it was too late because Lin Xian had already approached her. Waner, I finally found you. Aren't you familiar with this place? Do you know where the holy spring is? Take me there, quick. Lin Xian grabbed her arm, eager to leave. Su Qingwan felt like dying. How did this guy know about the holy spring? She was just on her way there for a second baptism of blood and qi, and she recalled that Lin Xian had undergone a baptism before. Could it be he wanted a second one too? She hesitated, truly not wanting to lead this scoundrel there. Just thinking about him undergoing a second baptism made her teeth itch, but given her current dependency she had no choice but to lead him on. You're indeed my maid, useful at critical moments. Hearing Lin Xian's praise, Su Qingwan secretly rolled her eyes. Soon they saw a spring, but there were many people around. Lin Xian noticed that Lin Jiping and Xiao Mei were also there. After Lin Xian met with the two individuals, they suddenly stood in front of the spring. Soon after, Xiao Mei's voice was heard. We saw it first. The moment Xiao Mei spoke, it immediately aroused the vigilance of those around her. Some discontentedly retorted, nonsense, I clearly saw it first, it's mine. The air was instantly filled with the smell of gunpowder, with traces of a looming explosion. This scene amused Lin Xian on the side. He was somewhat puzzled. The sacred spring looked so tranquil, so why were these people incessantly arguing here? He chuckled and said, if that's the case, why don't you all enter this sacred spring? The arguing stopped and everyone looked at each other, and then at the bottom of the spring, their eyes revealing a deep dread, Lin Xian's face showed a slight smile, his heart instantly enlightened. There must be something beneath this sacred spring, otherwise these folks would have already gone in. Wonder what lies beneath. Lin Xian turned to Su Qingwan and asked, "A third tier Bian Jie Jiao?" Su Qingwan replied, her eyes gazing at the bottom of the spring, a faint mystical light twinkling in her eyes. "What? That Jiao has the strength of a third tier?" Someone suddenly exclaimed in surprise, then left the place with a face full of disappointment, saying, "Before leaving, let's disperse. Can we, who haven't even reached the level of martial artists, possibly stand against a third tier monster?" Following this, people began to leave one after another, but there were still some who were not willing to give up and wanted to try their luck standing by the spring, fantasizing about enjoying the baptism of the sacred spring. Among these people were Lin Jiping and Xiao Mei. Lin Xian noticed that the two were quietly staying on the side. When Lin Xian looked over, Xiao Mei suddenly said with a high and mighty tone, "Lin Xian, if you can find a way to get rid of this Bian Jie Jiao, I might let you join us in soaking in this sacred spring." Lin Xian, as if he heard a huge joke, his face full of mockery, "I thought you would have learned your lesson by now, but it seems your memory is still stuck a month ago." Xiao Mei's face suddenly changed, her eyes emitting anger, glaring at Lin Xian with a cannibalistic gaze. "Lin, don't push people too far. This sacred spring was discovered by all of us together. If you have any method to deal with that Jiao, you should quickly tell everyone." Lin Jiping suddenly spoke up, looking at him with a righteous face. The crowd immediately echoed, exactly, otherwise we can only watch this sacred spring helplessly." Lin Xian laughed out loud, staring at the crowd, his lips curling into a smile. "A method? I do have one, indeed." "Really?" Seeing the joyful expressions on everyone's faces, Lin Xian sneered and in an instant appeared in front of the man who had just spoken. He grabbed him and threw him into the lake. Almost immediately, the azurite jade dragon from the spring leapt out, opening its massive jaws as if to devour him whole. The man's face was instantly filled with terror, and after giving Lin Xian a resentful look, he immediately crushed his token. "Lin Xian, your heart is so cruel." Lin Xian, indifferent, responded, "Isn't this what you wanted me to resolve? This is my way." The jade dragon, seeing its meal vanish suddenly, was furious. It suddenly snapped at a few people on the shore. Caught off guard, they failed to react in time, and only after having their arms or legs bitten off did they crush their tokens. The gruesome remains and the scent of blood in the air finally threw those who were still nearby into panic, and they forgot all about the sacred spring as they fled in terror. The jade dragon then turned its attention towards Lin Jiping, Xiao Mei and others. Don't come here." Lin Jiping, seeing the dragon open its bloody maw towards him, panicked and in desperation once again pushed Xiao Mei towards the abyss. Xiao Mei's pupils dilated in shock, and with a face full of unwillingness she too crushed her token. Watching Lin Jiping heartlessly abandon Xiao Mei again, the light in his eyes faded and his face was a mask of struggle. He knew that he might have lost a good companion forever. However, fortunately his token was still intact, meaning he still had a chance to get into Kyoto University of Special Abilities. When the time comes, what woman won't I have? Do I really need this wretched woman? With this thought, Lin Jiping's legs unconsciously moved faster, his heart cursing, "Damn, getting rid of this wretched woman is actually a relief. Not only was she first taken by Lin Xian, she's unbearable and probably has been played by countless men in secret." Thinking of the better prospects waiting for him, his mood greatly improved. Then turning his head, he noticed that Lin Xian and Su Qingwan were still standing there, while the dragon seemed to have noticed them too. He sneered in his heart, "Two fools, better dead." But in the next moment his face stiffened, and he found himself unable to move as his feet were somehow encased in ice. At that moment, the dragon twisted its body and rapidly approached him. Lin Jiping's face turned pale and he immediately summoned a hellhound to fend off the massive creature. Don't come here." As soon as the hellhound appeared, it trembled and within a second was swallowed by the dragon. Lin Jiping's heart trembled and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. He could no longer sense his hellhound. His eyes turned to Lin Xian, his hatred overwhelming his fear, but the overwhelming scent of blood forced him to swiftly crush his token. "Warner, I never expected you to strike him for my sake. I'm so touched." Watching Lin Xian's exaggerated demeanor, Su Qingwan rolled her eyes internally. She couldn't stand how Lin Jiping could even abandon his own woman out of anger, such a narcissist. "Young master, we should first think about how to deal with the situation at hand." The azurite jade dragon, having lost its target, was immediately enraged and looked at the two people who remained, charging at them almost crazily. Su Qingwan furrowed her brows as she stared at the massive creature before her, feeling a sense of retreat. At her current strength, she could only contend with a second-tier beast. A third tier was beyond her, yet her eyes lingered unwillingly on the sacred spring, an opportunity for a second baptism, a chance she did not want to miss, having been given a second chance at life. However, her limited strength was an undeniable obstacle, and without even achieving the level of a warrior, defeating this creature seemed impossible. Just as she was about to retreat, she noticed Lin Xian move. His speed was even faster than the jade serpent, reaching its head in the blink of an eye. Her expression changed drastically. What was this fool trying to do? Did he actually intend to kill the serpent? That was a joke. Even if he had mastered the essence of the sword, it was unlikely he could inflict any damage on a third-tier beast. Perched atop the serpent's head, Lin Xian looked down at the scenery below, feeling a drastic shift in perspective. The serpent, taken aback, had not expected to be ridden by a human. An utter humiliation. It thrashed wildly, trying to shake him off, but Lin Xian's feet were as if glued to the beast's round head, unmoving. Feeling the movements beneath him start to subside, Lin Xian finally shifted his stance and then shockingly remarked, "A third-tier beast? I recall killing one is worth 10,000 points." His words not only shocked Su Qingwan but also sparked anger in the serpent's eyes. This tiny human dared to provoke it. Suddenly, the serpent let out a fierce cry, its body radiating a powerful aura, shaking Lin Xian off. It looked enraged and suddenly spewed a jet of water from its mouth with tremendous force aimed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian, however, simply smiled faintly, gathering a trace of sword intent in his hands, facing the massive water jet with no sign of panic. Su Qingwan watched, almost hoping to see Lin Xian falter. Her eyes sparkled with a peculiar light as she intently observed. But to her astonishment, the sword intent met the water jet, cutting through it as easily as a knife through wood, effortlessly neutralizing the serpent's attack. Su Qingwan was shocked. How was this possible? This was a third-tier beast. Could it be that the jade serpent was pregnant and thus weakened? No, that couldn't be. It even had horns, clearly a male. At the moment of her confusion, she suddenly noticed the faint lotus pattern surrounding the sword intent. Instinctively, her gaze shifted towards Lin and she discovered 9 azure lotuses emerging on the surface around him, leading her to a sudden realization. He had actually merged the ancient holy body with the sword intent. She felt a mix of shock and envy, knowing Lin had awakened his holy body early. However, she reassured herself that once she became a martial artist, her holy body would also manifest. By then, her extreme cold holy body combined with her SSS tier ability would be a perfect match. She was confident her cultivation speed would be no less than this scoundrel's. Lin Xian began to draw numerous blood marks on the body of the Jiao, mythical serpent, with his sword Qi. Su Qingwan was not idle either. After all, she was also going to enter the holy spring soon, and it wouldn't do to just stand by idly. Suddenly, Lin Xian noticed an additional chill within his sword intent. With a knowing smile, more and more wounds appeared on the jade Jiao, and a chill began to seep into its body through these wounds. The creature writhed in agony, furiously lunging at Lin in an attempt to crush the human before it. However, Lin Xian skillfully dodged each attack, and eventually the Jiao, with a look of reluctance, collapsed by the shore. Before its death, it was puzzled, for the human before it seemed so frail. The body of the fallen jade Jiao slowly vanished, ultimately transforming into energy that entered Lin Xian's token. He glanced at it, and the number jumped from 0 to 10,000 with a ranking of 0.1 attached. "Warner, set up an ice wall around us to prevent disturbances," Lin Xian instructed, then jumped directly into the spring. Instantly, he felt a marvelous sensation warming not just his body but seemingly purifying his soul as well. Su Qingwan muttered a curse under her breath, then proceeded to encase the surroundings of the holy spring with an impenetrable wall of ice. Looking at the long-coveted holy spring, she couldn't wait any longer and leaped in. With a splash, she embarked on her second baptism. Meanwhile, in a distant cave, Feng Yuan looked over the corpses of spiders, his body exuding a demonic aura, his eyes filled with madness and thrill. He then glanced at his own token, which read 8,500 points, a score achieved by slaying hundreds of first-tier demonic beasts and dozens of second-tier ones. He had been leading the scoreboard for hours, and it seemed likely he would emerge as the top contender of this trial battle. However, when he saw the number behind his rank suddenly change to 2, his expression darkened, his gaze turning sinister as he surveyed the chaotic cave, pondering his next move. He stared at the big 0 for a long time, his vision starting to double until the 0 filled his entire sight. Just as he was in a daze, he suddenly heard someone exclaim, "Damn, everyone look at Lin Xian's score, it seems to be skyrocketing." Lin Zheng quickly rubbed his eyes, realizing that he wasn't seeing things. His son's points had reached the hundreds and were still rapidly increasing. 1,000 now. Someone suddenly shouted. Next to him, Fong Xiaotian scoffed, "It must be dumb luck, he probably found some unlucky guy's token." The score has surpassed the second place, 5,000 now. Whose token holds 5,000 points, another voice rang out. Fong Xiaotian's face changed, though he still wore a look of disdain. Just 5,000 points, so what? But the points kept climbing, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, he's about to surpass Fong Yuan, first place, 10,000 points. I told you Lin Xian couldn't be that weak, truly worthy of being the Sword Saint's disciple. Fong Xiaotian was shocked. When he looked again, he was horrified to find that Lin Xian's name had replaced his son's on the leaderboard with 4 zeros firmly on the screen. His figure staggered, as if he might collapse the next moment. Impossible, how could this trash get 10,000 points? He must be cheating. Yes, he's definitely cheating, Fong Xiaotian yelled, furiously accusing. Lin Zhang looked at him with disdain. Cheating? Tell me who can cheat their way to 10,000 points, exactly. Everyone knows it's impossible to cheat here. These points Lin Xian earned are legit. Others murmured around them, casting insults at Fong Xiaotian, whose face turned exceedingly ugly. He knew well that cheating was impossible in this trial ground, but for the sake of his pride he had to step forward. Now faced with ridicule, he could only silently withdraw from the crowd. Watching Fong Xiaotian's embarrassed retreat and hearing the continuous praise around him, Lin Zhang felt incredibly satisfied. Lu Yin stared at the name Lin Xian for a long time. She knew well, considering the rate at which the points climbed, there was only one possibility: Lin Xian had killed a third-tier monster. As Lu Yin pondered, she suddenly felt a strange sensation in her body. Closing her eyes briefly, she discovered that within the secret realm a beam of light shot up into the sky, as if to pierce through the realm itself. Her brow furrowed in alarm. Someone had awakened a holy body. Inside the secret realm, Su Qingwan felt a familiar essence emanating from her body, her lips curving into a slight smile. She finally completed the second baptism of the Qi and blood realm and even broke through to the martial artist realm, successfully awakening the extreme cold holy body. A smile was on her face as she turned to look at Lin, but at this moment Su Qingwan was unaware that above the heavens a pair of profound eyes was watching her. Those eyes only lingered for a few moments before swiftly disappearing. This idiot, it's been so long and still no reaction, seems like he can't even complete the second baptism. What a waste! Seeing that there was no movement from Lin Xian's side, Su Qingwan felt jubilant inside. Now that she had awakened her holy body, she looked at Lin Xian once again with renewed confidence. Su Qingwan's complexion was a bit pale because she had just learned from the system that there was only one day left to complete her mission to assassinate Lin Xian. Ding, the host has successfully advanced to the martial artist level and a special assassination gift package has been issued. A conceptual level dagger has been dispatched. Please check. The system's voice echoed in her mind. With a thought, a purple dagger appeared in her hand. The dagger, adorned with purple gold and exquisite patterns and an empty hilt, was slowly being entwined by a terrifying purple aura. The death dagger, a conceptual one-time use item. Anything or anyone stabbed by this dagger would be completely annihilated, disregarding all ranks and statuses. Holding this dagger, she could even slay gods. Su Qingwan was shocked. She truly didn't expect the system to be so supportive this time. Holding the dagger in her hand, Su Qingwan gradually looked towards Lin Xian, who was currently closing his eyes and undergoing the baptism of the holy spring, sneering coldly in her heart. You idiot, today I will see if you can still avoid death. Her eyes filled with satisfaction, she quickly moved towards Lin Xian, her delicate hand gripping the dagger tightly. As she approached Lin Xian, thinking that just a stab would make this idiot disappear forever, she couldn't help trembling slightly all over. Just as the tip of the dagger touched Lin Xian's neck, a burst of light suddenly erupted from his body, forcefully repelling Su Qingwan and causing her to fall into the water. Drenched and embarrassed, she struggled out of the water, her eyes filled with hatred as she looked at Lin, only to discover that his body was emitting a holy light. She exclaimed in surprise, This is the third baptism of the Qi and blood realm. How is this possible? When did this idiot?" But before she could finish her sentence, Lin Xian's body burst into another dazzling light. At the same time, Su Qingwan noticed that the essence of the holy spring was all converging towards Lin Xian. What? This is the purification of a martial artist. She clenched the dagger, her fingers trembling slightly, inwardly cursing Lin, unwilling to witness this scene. Just as she thought it was all over, another dazzling golden light burst from Lin Xian's body. Su Qingwan could no longer sit still. This guy had even awakened the exclusive secret technique of the holy body, the golden light bodyguard. This idiot, how can anyone compete with that? As the anomalies on Lin Xian's body were about to dissipate, she hesitated no more. With a lunge, she moved next to Lin Xian, ready to strike. This time, there should be no problems. Staring at his handsome and cold face, a hint of reluctance suddenly surged in her heart. Although this idiot always bullied and humiliated her, she had to admit that Lin Xian's talent might surpass her own. If she killed him, not only would she obtain a precious fragment of the Godslayer's divine status, but humanity would lose a rare genius. She suddenly remembered the tragic scene of her previous life on the blue planet, where the dagger hung suspended just a hair's breadth away. When it truly came time to kill the scoundrel, Su Qingwan hesitated. Oh, Su Qingwan, you really can't ever change your nature. Just then, the voice of the system echoed in her mind. Please complete the assassination task as soon as possible. Failure to complete the task will result in punishment. Su Qingwan looked at the crystal-clear dagger blade just a fraction away from Lin Xian's skin, her heart wavering in indecision. She finally asked in her mind, what punishment? The system detailed, upon failure you will no longer be able to attempt this mission. Moreover, you must stay with the target for a month, and if you do not make physical contact for more than 2 hours, your health will continuously decrease. Please consider carefully. What kind of absurd punishment is this? After reading the punishment, Su Qingwan's face turned dark. To be intimate with this scoundrel for a month and to maintain physical contact? What kind of blue planet joke is this? Her gaze gradually hardened. Lin, for my honor, you must die now. Rest assured, I, Su Qingwan, will become even stronger than you and drive those despicable beings out of the blue planet. With these thoughts, she was about to plunge the dagger deep into Lin Xian's shoulder. However, in the next second, she felt as though she was losing gravity, her body uncontrollably falling downwards, and her intended stab at Lin Xian missed its mark. Instinctively looking down, she realized that the sacred spring here had been drained by Lin Xian, unknowingly leaving behind only a dried-up valley. With a thud, ice suddenly formed under her feet. Just as she was about to strike again, she noticed Lin Xian seemed to be waking up. Su Qingwan was startled and somewhat unsure of what to do, eventually hiding the purple dagger behind her back. She knew well that Lin Xian had undergone 3 baptisms and 1 purification. Even with the extraordinary dagger, it would be useless if it couldn't reach him and might even expose her. After weighing her options, she suddenly turned around, hiding the dagger in an absolutely secret place. Only then did she look at Lin Xian's current state. Almost instantly, she turned her head away, her face quickly blushing. Indeed, Lin Xian was completely bare, his clothes nowhere to be seen, his body immaculately white and his skin as flawless as a newborn's. Su Qingwan tightly covered her eyes, desperately thinking of other things to distract herself from the image in her mind. However, no matter how hard she tried not to think about it, images of Lin Xian's body kept appearing in her mind, even enlarging gradually, eventually pausing on a certain cylindrical part. The image suddenly zoomed in, taking over all of Su Qingwan's senses. Ah! She suddenly screamed, shaking her head frantically, trying to rid herself of these impure thoughts. At this moment, Lin Xian slowly opened his eyes, bewildered. Where are my clothes? He quickly pulled a garment from his storage ring and put it on, only then realizing that he had drained the sacred spring. Without time to feel the changes in his body, he turned to look at Su Qingwan, who was still shaking violently. Waner, what are you doing? Lin Xian placed his hand on Su Qingwan just as she suddenly ran forward, her voice panicked. Put your clothes on quickly. Only then did Lin Xian realize what was happening. He was already dressed and it was time to leave. Hearing Lin Xian say this, Su Qingwan finally opened her eyes and slowly turned around, her gaze shifting evasively as she looked at him. It's over. Why does it feel like he's still not wearing anything? Su Qingwan was internally collapsing. This was the first time she had seen a man's naked body, especially that, and the visual impact was so overwhelming that she hardly dared to look directly at Lin Xian. Waner, why are you always looking down? No, nothing, just a bit of neck pain. Su Qingwan hastily made up an excuse, but her cheeks flushed red and she glanced away. If Lin Xian had observed her eyes carefully at that moment, he might have noticed a faint purple light in her deep blue pupils, but Lin Xian just felt it was strange and turned his head away. The two continued on their way, finding this trial site to be impossibly large, seemingly endless, with no end in sight. Lin Xian had no clue where they were. Right, Waner, besides the creation holy pill you mentioned last time, are there any other treasures here? Lin Xian suddenly asked Su Qingwan, who was walking behind him. No, young master, that's all I remember, Su Qingwan replied coldly, in her heart thinking she wouldn't tell him even if she knew. Lin Xian stared at her deep in fought, and just when Su Qingwan thought he was eager to find the creation holy pill, he unexpectedly dropped the topic. She remembered that Lin Xian's ability was ranked F and logically he should be very eager to find the pill. Why didn't he care? A terrifying suspicion suddenly surfaced in Su Qingwan's mind, unless his ability wasn't F-ranked at all. No, his initial F-ranked ability couldn't be fake, so there was only one possibility left. His ability must have already upgraded and it might even be SSS ranked, otherwise he wouldn't be indifferent about the creation holy pill. Thinking this, Su Qingwan suddenly realized that from the beginning to the end she had never heard Lin Xian specifically mention what his ability was. The only variable since her rebirth seemed to be Lin Xian himself. Her eyes filled with curiosity and scrutiny, she silently watched Lin Xian's back, her curiosity about him growing stronger. As Lin Xian fought off some senseless beasts attacking them, he felt a wave of boredom. He looked at his token, 15,000 points, but not in first place, which somewhat surprised him. Although these points aren't particularly high, they're not something just anyone can earn. However, he didn't care much about it, it was just a ranking after all. What mattered was getting into that university. Why does it feel like there are more and more demonic beasts? Lin Xian frowned slightly. Most of these beasts were only first tier, which he could kill easily, but they seemed to be endlessly multiplying. The more he killed, the more appeared. It's a beast tide, Su Qingwan said lightly, her voice calm as she effortlessly froze the beasts in their tracks. A beast tide? Lin Xian suddenly remembered that twisted, sickly face, feeling a vague displeasure in his heart. Yes, this beast tide is the final test of this trial by combat, she added. As soon as Su Qingwan finished speaking, a voice suddenly echoed in everyone's minds. This beast tide will be your final trial. At its conclusion, you may choose to leave freely, and points deducted after crushing your token will no longer be subtracted. Now let the beast tide begin. Almost instantly Lin Xian felt the presence of the demonic beasts around him thicken, even noticing the beasts escalating from first to second tier. Just as he was about to effortlessly slaughter them, several voices rang out near him. Hey, need some help? Lin Xian looked up to see a group of rough-looking figures standing arrogantly before him. Just as Lin Xian was about to shake his head, the leader, a blonde, presumptuously said, hand over half your points and you can join our team. Seeing Lin Xian's indifferent response, one of the underlings suddenly spoke up. I advise you not to be unwise. As you can see, the trial ground is swarming with demonic beasts. If you join my big brother's team, you'll eventually make back that half of your points and maybe even climb to a higher ranking. As Lin Xian suddenly produced a token, the blonde's nostrils flared wide, his demeanor turning imposing. Do you think you can help me earn back this half of my points? Lin Xian, holding onto his 15,000 points, taunted the group by waving it in front of them, causing them to literally drool. The blonde had never seen so many points in his life. He was immediately overjoyed and reached out to grab them, but Lin Xian quickly withdrew his hand, causing the blonde to grow frustrated. Faced with such a large amount of points, his mind clouded with greed. No longer pretending, he threatened, I advise you not to be foolish. We have 7 people on our side, and you only have 2. Don't force us to get rough. Lin Xian just sneered coldly. He had already seen through these people. Their strength was weak, probably unable to defeat even a second-tier beast. They were just out to deceive others, and once they had gathered enough points, they would crush their token and leave. It must be said, it was not a bad plan. It looked like there were quite a few here who had been duped by them without even realizing it. Really, thinking that once you have my points you can just leave this place and stop deceiving people? Lin Xian suddenly smiled, looking at him and noticing some people behind starting to harbor doubts. The blonde-haired man's face turned frantic, but he quickly showed a fierce expression and snapped, enough talk. If you won't give them up, we'll just take them. He turned to the crowd behind him and declared, let's join forces and take him down. We'll split his 10,000 points among us, and that should get us a decent ranking. The huge incentive made the crowd's eyes turn red with greed, losing all sense of reason. They didn't consider Lin Xian's strength at all, fixated only on those thousands of points that could potentially admit them into Kyoto Psychic University. As the blonde instigated the crowd, the 6 people behind him also displayed looks of greed, charging at Lin Xian together. Fools! Lin Xian just shook his head. He didn't even glance at them, simply snapped his fingers and the 7 attackers collapsed instantly. Pathetic, only a total of 1,000 points. Lin Xian looked disdainfully, having expected more challenge. Under the stupefied gaze of the 7, he casually tossed their tokens to Su Qingwan. Although Su Qingwan was somewhat displeased, she accepted them. As the tokens shattered, the bodies of the 7 began to gradually dissipate. Staring at the large egg depicted on the tokens, despair filled their eyes. The leader, the blonde-haired man, now had a face ashen as death, filled with immense regret. it's over now. I won't even be able to attend the most ordinary university, he thought. After resolving this minor interruption, Lin Xian stretched his body to test out its new capabilities. After 3 purifications and baptisms, the innate impurities in his body were completely expelled. He could feel his affinity with the world increasing. His intelligence seemed to have also improved significantly, and his control over his body was nearly perfect. Even the previously somewhat awkward ancient holy body had finally merged perfectly with him. A mid-tier first-level martial artist, Lin Xian found it ironically amusing. Although he was just at the first tier, why did it feel like he could instantly defeat even the third tier Jade Zhao he encountered earlier? Indeed, crossing over seems to fit right into a thrilling script, he mused. With a mere thought, nearly all the second-tier beasts in his sight were pierced through by his chilling sword intent. Su Qingwan rolled her eyes secretly at his side, cursing under her breath, "Freak." Lin Xian then glanced at his waist token. His points had now reached a terrifying 25,000, and yet his ranking was still second. Lin Xian was slightly surprised but remained composed. In this trial realm, points were hardly scarce. With such scores, there surely must be others reaching similar heights. He and Su Qingwan continued to race around the area, turning into a veritable nightmare for all beasts they encountered. Eventually, the beast started fleeing at the sight of him. Su Qingwan, seeing this, felt somewhat helpless but resigned to the fact that he was just too formidable. As Lin Xian was savoring the endless cascade of time, a familiar voice calling for help suddenly echoed from afar, bringing a smile to his face. Not far away, a surge of black flames shot up into the sky, seemingly eager to incinerate the beast tide entirely. Underneath the fallen horde of demon beasts, a sturdy figure was illuminated, his skin darkened by the flames. "Brother Lin, how cool is my fire?" Xiao Moli shouted from a distance, having noticed Lin Xian's advancement and wanting to show off a bit himself. "Not bad, just a bit too dark." Lin Xian laughed. Xiao Moli, noticing his skin blackened under the light of the fire, touched his neck awkwardly. "Watch out," he suddenly yelled, spotting 2 bald eagles swooping towards his dark hair. "My hair," he exclaimed in shock. Too late to react, his feathers began to fall before his eyes. Upon looking again, he saw the 2 eagles split in half on the ground, their bodies, or rather their upper halves, marked by a smooth, even cut. "What?" Xiao Moli gasped, realizing these were 2 second-tier high-level demon beasts, which even he would need time to handle. Yet he hadn't even seen Lin Xian move before they were defeated. Xiao Moli suddenly felt his black flames were less impressive, his curiosity about Lin Xian's strength growing. "Don't just stand there, do you not care about your hair anymore?" Lin Xian said, looking around at the encroaching beasts. Xiao Moli snapped back to reality, about to release his black flames, when he caught sight of Su Qingwan, Lin Xian's maid, who merely glanced at the horde of beasts and instantly froze them. "Sheesh, even the servant by young Master Lin's side is such a freak." The 3 continued to sweep through the battlefield, quickly attracting attention. "Young Master Lin, young Master Xiao, I am willing to offer myself in exchange for a chance to join your team," shouted a beautiful woman with rabbit ears in her hair, her face marked with determination. Beside her, a handsome man desperately clutched her arm. "Xiao Wu, how could you do this? You can't betray me." The rabbit-eared woman disgustingly shook him off. "Let go of me, you loser hypocrite, I've had enough of you." Pointing at the 3 green sprouts slowly growing from his head, she yelled furiously, "Zhang San, if I have to rely on those 3 sprouts of yours, when will I ever get to Kyoto Metahuman University?" "Xiao Wu, this is no ordinary man, he is a god, believe me, we just need to find my mother." However, the woman named Xiao Wu suddenly grabbed those 3 strands of grass and yanked them out abruptly. "You really are crazy. I must have been blind to have fallen for a loser like you." She furiously threw the grass at Zhang San's face and, under his desperate gaze, ran towards Lin Xian and the others. Lin Xian watched the scene unfold and couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. "This woman is quite attractive. Brother Lin, if you are willing, I can give her to you," Xiao Moli suddenly said with a mischievous grin. Su Qingwan witnessed all this and felt a surge of disdain. "If you like playing with rabbits, play by yourself." Xiao Moli immediately straightened his face. "Nonsense. Am I that kind of person? I was just checking if Brother Lin had such a preference, and of course it's better if he doesn't," he added. "Moreover, I could tell at a glance that this guy is not human but a rabbit spirit." "Oh, Brother Xiao noticed too?" Lin Xian said, a cold smile playing at the corners of his mouth as he watched. Xiao Wu approached the trio. "Gentlemen, don't you want to play with me?" The humanoid rabbit spirit continued to draw near, and remarkably no demon beasts dared to approach her. "It seems we've encountered a transformed demon beast. This has become interesting." Lin Xian's eyes flickered with a sword intent, and suddenly Xiao Moli's black flame appeared out of nowhere on the rabbit spirit. "Little rabbit spirit, you're so burned, watch me roast you." Just as Xiao Emoli was about to extinguish the black flame on his fingertip, he suddenly realized that his black flame seemed to have no effect on the rabbit spirit and quickly extinguished, only the rabbit's ears were scorched black. Seeing that his black flame had only damaged the rabbit spirit's ears, Xiao Emoli's face darkened. Doesn't he have any face? He then conjured a head-sized black orb and threw it at the rabbit spirit. Unexpectedly, the rabbit lightly dodged it and with a claw appearing in her hand she instantly struck at him. Xiao Emoli was shocked. He had underestimated this rabbit's strength, which already possessed the power of a third-tier beast. Since you gentlemen are unwilling, I have no choice but to kill you both. As the claws, several centimeters long, were about to pierce his chest, they suddenly froze in midair and then his body was covered with ice traces. With a swoosh, Xiao Emoli finally saw a sword intent, extremely terrifying, cleanly slicing it in half from the waist. Is it dead just like that? Isn't this a third-tier demon beast? Xiao Emoli suddenly doubted whether Lin Xian was some supreme being in disguise, otherwise how could he instantly kill a third tier with a first-tier ability? For the first time he felt the world was so unreal. It was just a mid-third tier rabbit spirit after all. Lin Xian suddenly approached the rabbit's head, which was flickering strangely. Retrieving something from inside, Lin Xian found a crystal clear orb currently shining brightly, obviously not ordinary. Su Qingwan suddenly exclaimed, "It's a transformation orb. No wonder this demon beast transformed at the third tier. To think such treasures still exist here. A transformation orb?" Lin Xian didn't think too much and immediately took it. After all, a treasure is a treasure. At that moment, he suddenly heard a cursing voice nearby and turned to see the earlier man holding his buttocks, carefully massaging it as if it was some precious treasure. Incredulously, they had killed his beloved Xiao Wu. "You have chosen a path of death." Zhang San's voice, seething with anger, rang out and immediately provoked a burst of laughter from Xiao Emoli. "No, dude, you still don't get it." Xiao Emoli chuckled. "This was a rabbit spirit. Your so-called true Xiao Wu has been killed by her long ago. She lurked by your side just to kill us all. I don't care. You killed my Xiao Wu and I will make you pay dearly." Zhang San glared at the three men, his head suddenly sprouting a patch of lush green grass, bluegrass entwining. "What is this?" Xiao Emoli stared at the wild grass swirling above them, seemingly trying to entangle and kill the three men. Lin, his companion, intervened. "No need for you to act. I can burn this grass down in an instant." As he spoke, dark flames appeared in Xiao Emoli's hands. Zhang San, however, with a sneer at the corner of his eye, coldly snorted, "My bluegrass is fireproof. Fireproof my foot. Watch me burn it all up." In an instant, Xiao Emoli spread the black flames over the grass. A bright black fire lit up the sky, with the flames fueled further by the grass. Seeing his grass catch the black flame and not even last a second before turning to ash, Zhang San panicked, his face losing its previous arrogance. "Impossible, my bluegrass is supposed to be fireproof." He seemed to go mad, clutching his torso and roaring furiously. Suddenly, a sinister gleam flashed in his eyes as he turned his gaze back to Lin Xian and the others. "Die, all of you must die." Following this, Xiao Emoli saw the grass suddenly transform into fine needles, firing relentlessly at them. Bluegrass Overlord needles. What kind of ridiculous names are these? Not only is the ability bizarre, but so are the names. Xiao Emoli could no longer bear it. "Trying to kill me?" With just that, with a mere thought, the black flames took shape, morphing into long spears that annihilated the needles. "Impossible." Jing San's pupils dilated in terror and he collapsed to his knees. As he regained his senses, a spear made of black flame pierced through his body. "Never seen someone so bent on their own destruction," Xiao Emoli said with disgust. Following that, Zhang San's eyes filled with confusion as he collapsed to the ground. The onlookers witnessing this gruesome scene felt a chill run down their spines. As more and more demonic beasts appeared, even reaching the third tier, many began to crush their tokens. With each vanishing light, Xiao Emoli's face grew more somber. "Brother Lin, what do we do? These beasts have turned into third-tier creatures. I can handle the second tier, but a group of third-tier beasts, 100 of me wouldn't be enough." Lin Xian remained calm and composed, unfazed by the situation. "Don't worry, I'll take action." Amidst the astonishment of Xiao Molier and Su Qingwan, a burst of golden light suddenly erupted from Lin Xian's body. As the golden light appeared, a small golden figure identical in shape to Lin Xian shockingly materialized, a manifestation of the holy body. Xiao Molier exclaimed in surprise, "Brother Lin, you've actually awakened the holy body. No wonder you are so strong." Watching the small golden figure effortlessly defeat enemies within the beast tide, Xiao Molie's eyes revealed a hint of envy, which was quickly replaced by deep admiration. "Now we can earn quite a few points again. Lin, you're really impressive." Noticing the change in Xiao Molie's tone, Lin Xian couldn't help but feel amused. "Are you kidding me? That's an ancient holy body, the stuff of emperors. I must cling to him tightly, Xiaomolia thought to himself. Brother Lin, those monsters are still breathing. Let me help you finish them off. Brother Lin, you must be tired, let me massage your shoulders. Brother Lin, don't worry, I'll keep your secret. As Xiaomolia's attitude shifted dramatically, Lin Xian found himself both amused and surprised. After the three of them had slain the group of beasts, they looked at their tokens. Lin Xian's points had soared to an astonishing 300,000, meaning he had just killed at least 20 third-tier monsters. Xiaomolia satisfied with his own score of 70,000 to 80,000 points, and Su Qingwan with even more, at around 100,000, were both securely able to enter Kyoto University of Supernatural Studies. Brother Lin, I heard that these points can be exchanged for martial arts and treasures at Kyoto University of Supernatural Studies, Xiaomolia said excitedly, eyeing the surrounding monsters as if they were beautiful treasures. What are we waiting for? Isn't this just points lying around? The trio's hunting spree continued. Meanwhile, in a deep dark cave, Fong Yuan was catching his breath, looking at the two third-tier junior monsters lying at his feet, suddenly emitting a cold aura. Glancing at his token, his face suddenly stiffened. His points had reached a high of 50,000, but he had fallen from first place to fourth. Interesting, very interesting, he murmured, his body exuding a denser demonic aura, almost materializing. At that moment, dozens of cold watching eyes appeared in the damp, dark cave. However, Fong Yuan showed no fear, instead his body trembled with excitement, his demonic aura swirling around him, a sign of his craving for endless slaughter. As time ticked by, Lin Xian lost count of how many monsters he had slain. First, Xiaomolia, out of strength, was the first to retreat, followed by Su Qingwan, who unwillingly broke her token to leave. After the two left, Lin Xian, now eager, spoke. Now that I've advanced to a martial artist and all impurities in my body have been removed, my ancient holy body has merged with me, awakening even stronger phenomena. After the recent battle, my cultivation has become more stable and I sense signs of another breakthrough. No sooner had the words been spoken than Lin Xian felt a warm current surge through his body. He had broken through once again, and his body continued to swell with vitality and blood energy. He could even feel that the next breakthrough was not far off. It was truly defying the heavens. Now his body was no longer limited by realms, and every breakthrough seemed as natural as water flowing into a channel. Lin Xian believed it wouldn't be long before he could directly approach the level of a great emperor. Bursting with anticipation, Lin Xian then unleashed his Qinglian sword intent, instantly vanquishing the demon beasts. After accumulating 1,000,000 points, he crushed his token. The outside world was already in a frenzy. Everyone's eyes were glued to the 6 zeros behind Lin Xian, their hearts filled with immense shock. For many years, they had never seen such a high score. Even the dean of Kyoto University of Paranormal Studies, Lu Yen, was starting to feel uneasy. She had thought Lin Xian reaching 300,000 points was already his limit, but as the points surged at a terrifying rate, it was a stark slap to her face. Ha, my son Lin Xian truly has the makings of a great emperor. Lin Zhang laughed wildly at Fang Xiaotian, who was blending into the crowd, his face filled with pride. Fang Xiaotian, hidden among the crowd, gritted his teeth as he stared at the name Lin Xian, his eyes filled with a cold, dark glare. After a while he sneered at the figure of Lin Zhang. Laugh as much as you want, your time is running out. Meanwhile, Su Qingwan, Xiaomolai, Fang Yuan and Song Yanran also gradually emerged from the trial. As soon as Song Yanran came out, she checked the rankings and immediately saw Lin Xian's name at the top, first place. Then she saw those 6 zeros and stared in disbelief, wondering if it was a mistake. 1 million, damn it. Thinking of her own tens of thousands of points, she felt a wave of helplessness wash over her. Could she really defeat this guy? At this moment, it wasn't just her troubled by Lin Xian. Fang Yuan stared grimly at the two characters above his head and then at the 1 million points. Suddenly, a trace of dark energy flashed in his eyes and the corners of his mouth exuded a slight chill. He had used that power to earn his current 500,000 points, which was only half of what Lin Xian had. By now almost everyone had emerged except for Lin Xian, who was still inside. Everyone was somewhat surprised. What kind of freak was this guy? They had never heard of anyone scoring a full 1,000,000 points in these trials. Not just that, look at the second place Fang Yuan with just barely 500,000 points. Even I, a third-tier martial artist, would probably not score so many points. This was surely a historical record for the trial grounds since their establishment. Amidst the astonished exclamations of the crowd, the much-anticipated Lin Xian finally walked out, once again causing a tremendous shock among the onlookers. Everyone looked at his cultivation level, a high-level first-stage martial artist. How is that possible? Yes, the moment Lin Xian appeared, it seemed that the energy he absorbed from the sacred spring was so immense that it led to another breakthrough. Not only were they shocked, but even Su Qingwan was somewhat astonished. She remembered having left him less than half an hour ago. How could he have jumped from a low-level to a high-level first-stage martial artist so quickly? Not even a cheat code works that fast. At this moment Xiao Molia was completely dumbfounded, his resolve becoming firmer in his eyes. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd he slowly approached Lin Zhang. Lin Zhang, on the other hand, looked as if he was about to burst into tears, staring at Lin as if he was about to cry the next moment. Very good, worthy of being my son. No one knows how much he has endured over the years. He has never been as proud of his son as he is today. His son has made him proud. Lin Xian, however, immediately rejected his sentimental approach, suddenly feeling a cold aura unreservedly targeting him. He looked in that direction, and to his horror it was Fang Yuan. Lin Xian frowned slightly, feeling the chilling gaze. Through that layer of body, seemingly at the position of the heart, he clearly felt a force that even he found somewhat daunting. The two stared at each other for a long time as if communicating telepathically and then smiled at each other. However, Lin Xian's smile was hearty while Fang Yuan's smile was chilling to the bone. Soon after they heard the ethereal voice of Dean Liu. This trial has come to an end. The top 100 qualify to enter the Capital University of Supernatural Abilities. As for the rest, do not be discouraged, other universities are waiting for you. In 3 days it will be the opening day of Capital University of Supernatural Abilities, and those who are absent will be deemed to have forfeited their qualification. As soon as the voice faded, Lin Xian noticed a stunning figure suddenly appearing in front of him, her voluptuous body filling his entire field of vision. It was Lu Yan. He hadn't yet reacted when he saw her suddenly say to him, "Would you like to become my disciple?" Lin Xian subconsciously wanted to respond but realized she wasn't actually looking at him. "Su Qingwan, would you like to become my disciple?" Lu Yan shifted past Lin towards Su Qingwan behind him and spoke indifferently. As these words were spoken, the surrounding crowd no longer cared about the rankings and all looked in the same direction, eager to see the person who had caught the eye of the dean of the first university in the capital. "The disciple is willing." Su Qingwan nodded firmly, yet her brows were slightly furrowed and a touch of sadness quickly flashed through her eyes. In her previous life, Su Qingwan had indeed become her disciple, and it could be said without hesitation that her eventual ascension to emperor was all thanks to her mentor's cultivation. However, her mentor had not been able to see her ascend to emperorhood, willingly sacrificing herself to protect the Blue Star. Every time Su Qingwan thought of that magnificent scene, her heart ached with admiration, her fists clenched tightly, struggling to control the slight trembling brought by the fear of loss. This time, she was determined to save her master. Thinking that she was nervous, Lu Yan's expression softened and she smiled at Su Qingwan. "I will take you with me now, is that all right?" After speaking, she turned to Lin and smiled faintly. "Do you have any objections?" Breathing in the faint fragrance emitted by a 9th-rank expert nearby, Lin Xian dared not express any objections. He immediately chuckled and said, "Not at all, not at all, Principal Lu, whatever you say goes." "Thank you, master. But I would like to say goodbye to the young master once more. Please allow me this, master." Su Qingwan maintained a calm facade, yet her heart was overflowing with immense joy. She had been waiting for this day for far too long. However, she could not leave yet as there was no more time left. Tonight she had to kill him. Well, then it would have to wait until tomorrow. Lu Yan nodded slightly, understanding that Su Qingwan was Lin Xian's maidservant. Although she had contemplated taking Lin Xian under her wing as well, someone had already beaten her to it. With a light chuckle, she then vanished from the spot. Before leaving, feeling something amiss, she reassured Su Qingwan mentally, "Relax, my disciple. With your master here, you will no longer be anyone's maidservant. You will simply be yourself, free from anyone else's control." Hearing this unexpectedly gentle voice, Su Qingwan was momentarily stunned. A sudden sourness tinged her nose, her fingertips digging tightly into the flesh as time was running out to grow stronger. Once Lu Yan disappeared in front of Lin Xian, the crowd around slowly regained their composure. They gazed enviously at Su Qingwan, whose beauty seemed celestial and her distinct aura, cool and pure like a crystal of sacred ice, made everyone start speculating about her true identity and capabilities. Soon the crowd dispersed and Lin Xian naturally followed Lin Zheng back to the Lin family home. Upon their arrival, the Lin household was no longer the warm place it had been. A solemn aura permeated the air, creating a tension that was palpable. Just as he was about to speak, Lin Zhang beside him suddenly burst into laughter, still reveling in the joy of the earlier moments. "Xian'er, go back and rest well. In 3 days, head off to university with peace of mind," he said. patting his shoulder reassuringly. Lin Xian was taken aback. Anyone could sense that something was off with the current state of the Lin family, yet Lin Zhang seemed utterly unconcerned. Could it be that Uncle Lin and the others had returned, or was his father trying to comfort him, not wanting him to worry? As they walked, Lin Xian decided not to dwell on it further, letting the few gazes that fell upon him slide off. After all, with the sword saint around, there was no need to panic. The two entered the house and Lin Xian enjoyed one last night of warmth shared with Su Qingwan before he went to sleep reassured. Not long ago, while Lin Xian was deep in sleep, a figure suddenly appeared beside his bed, highlighted by the moonlight's snowy glow. Su Qingwan's hand, lingering in front of her chest, exerted a slight force. Why is it stuck? She looked down the crevice. The purple shimmer of the dagger had already revealed half of itself, but now it seemed jammed, unyielding to her efforts. Impossible, right? Embarrassment flooded Su Qingwan's heart. Her chest slightly quivered, but no matter how hard she tried, the dagger seemed rooted there, unmoved. The countdown in her mind pressured her incessantly, and the slight snoring from below further irritated her. Su Qingwan decided to risk it all. Lin Xian must die tonight. She was about to strip off her clothes. She refused to believe the dagger would remain stuck then. As she was preparing to remove her top, a dangerous aura rapidly approached her, or more precisely Lin Xian beneath her. She instantly stepped back, ready to revel in the disaster, but found that Lin Xian had unexpectedly turned over, narrowly avoiding the attack. With a loud bang, the bed was instantly shattered. Lin Xian awoke abruptly, his body tensing instantly, and he immediately turned his gaze to the source of the attack. Yo, it seems you lad dodged it by sheer luck. Familiar figures swiftly appeared in the room, now looking disdainfully at Lin Xian. You dare to steal from the young master, you must pay a painful price. Fang Ping's voice was filled with scorn, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he looked at Lin Xian. After speaking, he turned to a man behind him. Later I will let you beat him first, but his life is mine to end. A fierce expression surfaced on Fang Ping's face as Lin Xian then saw Lin Jiping slowly emerge from behind him. Lin Xian immediately understood everything. So, you've been colluding with the Fang family all along. Realizing his plot was exposed, Lin Jiping dropped his pretense, his face filled with rage. Not only did you steal the position of the Lin family's young master from me, but you also lost my only Peiji cup. I have an irreconcilable feud with you. Thinking of no longer having to be as humble as before, Lin Jiping's face twisted with madness. Your good days are over, Lin. Even if you were the top, even if you really are a genius, it all ends today. Not only will your old man die, but you will also die here. Lin Xian looked at them lightly, noticing an old man standing beside the two whose strength was unfathomable. He smiled faintly, seemingly aware of the source of their confidence. Old Fang, take action. As Fang Ping's words fell, a powerful force suddenly surged towards Lin Xian as if to crush him utterly. And this beauty here? Fang Ping noticed Su Qingwan on the side, his eyes instantly brightening, ready to have old Fang suppress her as well. But just then Lin Jiping's face showed hesitation. She's the new disciple of Principal Lu. Should we really attack her? Fang Ping paused momentarily, yet his gaze remained fixed on her beautiful form. Suddenly his expression hardened. To hell with it, isn't Lin Xian the disciple of the Sword Saint? Are we not going to kill him? Impossible. Even if he were the disciple of the Emperor, I would still kill this guy. Lin Jiping stared intently at him. That's exactly right. Besides, I've heard that recently these 9th-tier powerhouses are all heading to a mysterious place. We only need to hide for a while, there's no need to worry. Fang Ping suddenly licked his lips and began to close in on Su Qingwan, his eyes full of lasciviousness. You take care of Lin Xian first, just don't kill him. I'll help you check if this fool has been spoiled by Lin Xian. Lin Jiping felt somewhat displeased in his heart. Gazing at Su Qingwan's stunning body, he was irked that he wasn't the first, but the thought of his forthcoming pleasure made him somewhat impatient. A group of disgusting people. Su Qingwan exuded an extremely cold chill, and her gaze towards them was like looking at several bugs, full of disdain and contempt. Yes. That's the look I hope you can keep later. Fang Ping thought of seeing pain and despair on that disdainful face, hearing her hoarse, pleasant cries, and he suddenly became excited, lunging crazily towards her. Die! A sharp light flashed in Su Qingwan's cold eyes, in which Fang Ping had already been marked as a dead man. However, her attacks were all neutralized by a strange energy. Seeing this, Fang Ping burst into mad laughter. Useless. Master Fang is a 6th-tier martial artist, all your resistance is in vain. Su Qingwan suddenly stopped, placed her hand on her chest, and stared coldly at him. Seeing her sudden halt, Fang Ping thought she had given up resisting. His hands eagerly reached for her, but what met him was a bizarre dagger enveloped in purple mist. He sneered, confident with Master Fang's protection he couldn't be harmed by her. But just as the bizarre dagger was about to touch his arm, suddenly a fierce sword intent acted first, chopping off his arms. Fong Ping watched incredulously as his severed arm spun twice in the air before heavily hitting the ground. Su Qingwan sensed that this sword intent was clearly Lin Xian's. She was just surprised that he could break through the restraint of a 6th-tier martial artist and even chop off this man's arms right under his watch. Fong Ping then fell to the ground grotesquely, screaming madly around. Who is it? Which coward dares to strike at me? I am the second young master of the Fong family. However, no one appeared for a long time, only to suddenly hear from Lin Xian's direction a scream followed by the old man's terrified voice. Young master, it was this old servant. I was careless, and that gave Lin Xian a chance to strike at the young master. The elder of the 6th rank immediately fell to his knees, trembling violently. At that moment a blood-spattered severed arm appeared before Fong Ping. Only then did he notice Lin Xian standing in front of him while Lin Jiping was sobbing on the ground holding his severed arm. Lin Xian had a carefree smile on his face as he watched with amusement and said indifferently, "Who allowed you to touch her?" Su Qingwan's body shuddered slightly. "Impossible, Elder Fong, what are you doing? How could he possibly have broken free from your suppression?" Fong Ping shouted in fury, his face filled with disbelief, unable to accept that a 1st-tier martial artist could withstand the suppression of a 6th-tier one. Master, this man possesses an ancient holy body, and due to my momentary carelessness he managed to break free and injure the young master. I deserve to die for this, Elder Fong said bitterly, his gaze towards Lin Xian filled with hatred as he knew his own life might also be in jeopardy. What, an ancient holy body? This useless one actually has an ancient holy body. It was only then that Fong Ping noticed the 9 radiant green lotuses surrounding Lin Xian, dazzling in their display. Jealousy surged within him as he coldly commanded Elder Fong, "Kill him." Elder Fong's body erupted with a burst of powerful energy, his palm charged towards Lin Xian's chest. Die. Facing the attack of a 6th-tier martial artist, Lin Xian dared not underestimate his opponent and exerted his full strength immediately. The green lotus sword intent surged forward recklessly, but it could not block the attack for even a second. Quickly he summoned the little golden man, but to no avail. Lin Xian's expression turned solemn as the gap in their powers became evident. Just as the fist was about to hit his chest, a magnificent lotus flower suddenly appeared in front of him, rotating continuously with a golden glow, ultimately shielding him from the punch. Holy light protection? Lin Xian felt a hint of reluctance, as the golden light slowly faded, leaving only the imprint of a lotus flower blooming in the air. Elder Fong, unconvinced, suddenly conjured a beam of light in his hand and shot it straight at Lin Xian. By then Lin Xian had already fallen to the ground, staring at the terrifying energy within the light beam, and could only scream inwardly for his master. "Ha, today is your day to die, Lin." Seeing Lin Xian with no will to resist, Fong Ping couldn't help but burst into laughter, reminding Elder Fong, "Remember to leave him breathing." The room filled with their malevolent laughter. Meanwhile, outside the house, Li Dao, who had been observing for a long time, thought it was time to intervene. Facing a 6th-tier warrior, he hadn't expected Lin Xian to last this long. Just as he was about to act, he suddenly withdrew, adopting an attitude of not wanting to meddle. "Since he's come back, there's no need for me to step in," he continued, lying down as if watching an exciting drama unfold. Lin Xian, seeing the beam of light approaching, instinctively closed his eyes. The anticipated pain did not come. He thought his master had arrived and immediately opened his eyes. A robust and towering figure suddenly appeared in his sight, and he could vaguely see the edge of a mask from behind. Lin Xian suddenly remembered this must be Uncle Lin, mentioned by his father, and the one who had been protecting him all along. Indeed, when Fong Ping and Fong Lao saw that ghastly mask, their eyes first widened in shock, then filled with a deep-rooted fear. "You were supposed to be dead, how can this be?" they began, but before they could finish, Lin Xian saw a flash of sword light and their heads were instantly severed. It was swift and decisive, with no room for unnecessary words. Lin Xian relaxed slightly, taking deep heaving breaths. "Don't kill me, please, Uncle Lin. I'm also a member of the Lin family," Lin Jiping pleaded from the ground, his face etched with terror as he looked at the ghostly mask, begging for mercy. "The traitors of the Lin family killed him." A cold voice emerged from beneath the mask, followed closely by a chilling, murderous intent. Lin Xian then saw blood splatter across the sky, forming a stunning rainbow. "Mr. Li, thank you for keeping an eye on the Lin family," Lin Xian started to say, but before he could continue, he saw Uncle Lin suddenly speaking to the void. Li Daoi then revealed himself, waving his hand with a resigned smile. "It has nothing to do with the Lin family. You should know that I am only here to ensure the safety Of my disciple, Uncle Lin Mast showed a hint of surprise before hearing Li Daoyi continue. However, I didn't expect that upon your return you would have advanced to the 8th level and even begun to form the embryo of a sword spirit. There is hope for you yet. Thank you again, Mr. Li, for your nurturing. While Uncle Lin felt puzzled, he replied politely. Alright, since you've returned, it's time for this old man to leave, said Li Daoyi before vanishing from the spot. Take care, master. Take care, Uncle Lin. How is my father? Lin Xian asked eagerly. Uncle Lin didn't immediately answer. He was still pondering Li Daoyi's words. It had only been a month since his departure and the young master had already become the disciple of a sword saint. He felt bewildered, suddenly realizing that the young master seemed different from before. Young master, follow me. Lin Xian, sensing no urgency in his voice, guessed that his father must be alright and soon called Su Qingwan to follow Uncle Lin. Su Qingwan, although she had removed the dagger, realized that it was nearly impossible to kill Lin in the presence of an 8th level powerhouse without detection. Moreover, after the recent events, her desire to kill Lin Xian had waned. Enough. She tucked the dagger away and quickly followed Uncle Lin to the inner hall of the Lin residence. At this moment, Lin Xiong was confronting Lin Zhang with a host of disciples and elders, an overwhelming force of Lin Xiong's followers, confident and overlooking Lin Zheng, unaware that he was the true threat in this caged battle. Lin Zhang, it's time for the headship of this family to change hands, don't you think? Lin Xiong toyed with the battle saber in his hand, his expression nonchalant. Behind him, a group of disciples and elders stood like a mountain, ready to crush Lin Zhang under their weight. Lin Xiong, I originally thought you simply wanted to oust me from power, but I never expected you to even collude with the Fong family. Upon hearing this, the expressions of some elders behind Lin Xiong suddenly changed. Lin Xiong, seeing this, immediately retorted sternly, nonsense, when have I ever colluded with the Fong family? Lin Zhang, don't twist the truth. What have you done as the head of the Lin family over these years? Lin Xiong suddenly turned to the elders and disciples behind him with a face full of indignation and said, not only have you nearly broken the centuries-old relationship between our Lin family and the Song family, but you have also constantly shielded your son. Everyone is well aware of what Lin Xian has done, spending his days in debauchery, harassing virtuous women, and you, Lin Zhang, not only do nothing about it but also overly indulge him. The face of our Lin family has been completely lost by you and your son. Lin Xiong's voice was incredibly stirring, immediately resonating with many disciples and elders. Soon a myriad of curses towards Lin Xian arose, with some even starting to blame Lin Zhang. Seeing the mood of the people, Lin Xiong smiled, then looked towards Lin Zhang and continued righteously, Lin Zhang, you accuse me of colluding with the Fong family, where is your evidence? If it weren't for my multiple pleas to the Fong family, our Lin family would have been destroyed by them long ago. Watching Lin Xiong's righteous and dignified demeanor, the crowd finally completely leaned towards him. Lin Xiong's lips curled slightly